Hey guys. Whew, I'm 1 minute late. I thought I was going to be so late. I had to go grocery shopping and it it took longer than I assumed. Oh no, everybody's going to pass tonight. Oh, well, we got Mama 3. That's okay, Dragon Mama. Flutter Bear just wanted to say hello because I've not been. Yeah, but if you haven't read it or been paying attention to it or follow, it's not paying attention, but following along, yeah, you wouldn't know what I was talking about. I usually do this at 7, but there's not enough time in a day, I tell you. There really isn't. Well, I hope people show up. If not, I'm just gonna get off of here. Oh, I hate peas. Hello. It's so hot in my house, and yeah, it's cooler outside. It's got my windows open. Oh, I don't think I boogied that fast in a while. Oh, we got 4 people. That's good enough for me. I was just saying wasn't gonna bother going through with it if there was only one person, because then it would be like, actually, you know what? Yeah, I probably would. Hey, SD. And I still haven't looked at your emails yet, SD. I'm sorry. I've been so busy. Oh, I just got back in the house. I left at 5:30. Yeah. So that's why I had to move my live until 8. I went grocery shopping. Oh, that was fun. And then I had to wait half an hour for the cab. Oh, that you know what? You know what would really work? I don't know if I had the damn book in front of me. What was that? Do you find it hot, Lee? I just turned the air on for a little bit. It's a little warm. Yeah, it is warm. You can open up your window if you want. All right. Hey, Mama 3. So I forgot. Uh, I've I have had my channel for a while and looked and saw super old videos of my kids. Now, do I keep them or get rid of them? If you're planning on starting a channel, I would get rid of them. Like if you're going to do other content, I would move them just because you know what? The world is a scary place and not everyone is as kind as, you and I and everybody else in chat. I wouldn't. I would just take it down. I had to do the same thing with my Facebook. Hey Brittany. Hey Melanie. Hey cool gamer. Yeah, I'm sorry, SDs. I know they're there. It's just it's so much. But I don't know. I can't. I'm checking emails. I'm checking messages, and then it's like, okay, I got to pay this bill. Then I got to do that. Then I got to go grocery shopping. Then it's like, oh shit. Well, I have to mop. Then I got to vacuum. And then I have this channel where I have to keep up with it, right? Like I'm not trying to complain about that. I'm just saying that I didn't realize like how short days are now. Yeah, I would get rid of them, Mama 3, honestly, because I worry that some jerk out there will do something nasty. You know what I mean? Like say something or I don't know. I don't trust the internet. It's not a safe place anymore. Not that it really was. Now it's just worse. Yeah, I'm just gonna drink some of my Gatorade. Yeah, like SD just said, there are crazy people out there that will steal things like that and upload them for unsavory folks. Thank you. That's exactly what I meant to say. You said it way better than me, SD. You're so excited for this? Yeah, right, Brittany? And it's darker soon now because we're heading into fall. So there's only so many hours in a day where it's daylight. I don't know. I hate this time of year. I always get depressed. But I will say, since I started last summer, my YouTube channel, last winter, I didn't get depressed. Like this channel helped me. Even though I wasn't monetized by like at all until this year, but I still had you guys and it was great, honestly. It helped me. I couldn't believe it. Hey, Melanie. Oh, are you? That's what you're thinking. Yeah, if you're gonna have your channel, I'm not sure what content you're doing, but I just wouldn't put anything to do with my family on there. I have one. I have two videos actually, and it's got my nephew and my son in it, but you can't see them. It's when we had the blood moon. It was the first time I ever seen it in my life. That was a couple of years ago. So I do have those on there, but it's just showing the moon. You can hear us in the background. You do too, Melanie? Yeah, it's like it's called SADS, which stands for Seasonal Affective Disorder Syndrome. And you know what? Everybody, I believe, has it. Some are worse than others. You got to do something. Like, if you know what I mean, if you get up every day, it's cold. Obviously, well, sorry, I live in Canada. It's freezing here. So in the winter, we hibernate. The only time we leave is when my son goes to school or I have to go grocery shopping. I don't drive either, so it's not like I can go visit people. And my sister just moved half an hour away from me now, so I don't have anyone here. So yeah, that's a little depressing. I'm a little upset about that. Actually, I'm a lot upset about that. Yeah, I don't like the fallback time change. It gets dark at 4:30. Yeah, exactly. I love fall. The temp is so comfy, and I love watching it. Fall's cool. I can't do winter. It gets so cold here. It's like minus 24. It's ridiculous. I don't like it. And then like you hibernate. We have to hibernate. We don't have to. We hibernate because there's nothing to do. I mean, sure we can build a snowman when it's not that freaking crazy cold. That's why I have a SADS. My sister had to move. I'm pissed off and I'm sad. Not at her, just at the situation. So that sucks. We're really close. Her son is my nephew, right? And the boys, my son and her son, are best friends. So, and I don't drive, so I'm thinking, great, how the hell are we ever going to see each other? What are they doing? They got, oh my God, Kat's got the Zooms again. You guys are idiots. You're not a fan of winter either. My body rebels if I get too cold. Yeah, it's saying I can't handle it. And when it's, like I said, minus 25, minus 30, I can't do it. I just can't. I'll stay in the house. There's no point going anywhere. Because, I mean, you breathe in and it hurts just because it's so cold. It only gets 10 there. That's it. All right, we're on a new chapter here. This one is titled August 19th, September 6th, 1970. I don't think anybody likes winter. The only people I know of that like winter are the people who never get snow and um, it doesn't get that cold for them. That would be okay, you know, if we got some snow, but it was still not so damn cold. Yeah, though they're hitting the ganja or something, Melanie, because they're going like stupid. It's like every time I get on this computer, it's like boom, boom. It's worse than Erie due to the lake. Oh yeah, I would imagine. I'm just gonna take a sip of my drink. Um, Alberta and Stella, you're not in here. Alberta and Stella told me for the longest time, when you have a headache, go get Gatorade. And I never did because, you know, my memories were shit. So I always forgot. Today I was at the grocery store and then I seen there was a 6-pack on for like $3. I was like, holy shit, okay, I'm getting that. So she said for me to drink this and like kind of chug it, right? Because the electrolytes in it and it will help you with your headache. I'm telling you, this bottle's almost done. And I also took muscle relaxers with a couple other things in them for because this hurts this migraine. Not even well, it's not a migraine anymore now. It's just a headache, but it was bad. It's still there, but not as bad. Now my head's not pounding and I can actually function. Because I was thinking, great, I'm gonna have to cancel again on you guys, but I feel a hell of a lot better. Do you want me up tonight or do my mod duties? You can come on up. Absolutely. Just remember to cut me off when I'm reading if you have something that you want to, if you have any inputs or anything, Brittany. Just tell me to shut up for a minute so you can talk. All right, I'll wait for you to come up here and then I'll start the book. Gatorade can help with a lot. You drink them when your pots really. See, I just thought, it's a sports drink for people who run and whatnot, not, and not only that, like, it's good for diarrhea apparently too. It's like a Pedialyte almost for kids or whatnot. I'm sure for adults too. Oh, I know you, all right. Your daughter. Mm. Yeah, I drink almost a whole one, and I can't believe it. Actually, I don't know. Maybe it's the medicine. Maybe a mixture of both. I'm assuming a mixture of both, because last night there was like half a Gatorade in the fridge that my son didn't finish, so I just chugged it. And then I had on the ice pack on my neck, and I went to bed. Is it really peas? No way. They do that now? Because I had one too, a colonoscopy, but I don't remember drinking anything, to be honest. Just that stupid crap they make you drink before you go in, so you can clear your effing bowels. I did not know that. I don't remember what I know the drink that I had. I don't remember it, to be honest. I just know that it was like it sucked. Good to know. I get severe migraines. Yeah, no, honestly, Alberta and Stella is the one that told me that. Yeah, because she gets it too, right? Like migraines and stuff, and that's what I get with all this weather change and all the rain and the pressure in the air. I've been hurting. Like I got up today at 9. I woke up because in my dream, my head was hurting. Like whatever dream I was having, I just remember my head was hurting, and then I woke up. I'm like, oh, okay, it's hurting bad. If I'm dreaming about it, I can, you know what I mean? I could feel it. So I sat up. Oh my god, when it's that pounding, you can't do shit. So I had to go to the kitchen, grab an ice pack, and smoke some, and lay down on the couch, and go and hopefully fall back asleep. And I did. I had to take like a Gravol too, so I wouldn't be sick. Your daughter has that, yeah. Gatorade mixed with a couple of things, Metamucil and something else, and you have to drink a lot. Oh hell no! Ew.
Hello.
Hey Brittany, can you imagine drinking Gatorade mixed with Metamucil? Ugh.
Ugh.
That's what they have to drink when you get a colonoscopy done. Oh no, I don't remember that. I don't even remember. Yeah, I had to drink something. It was in a package form, and I just had to mix it in a cup. And there's 2 packages. And once I was done the first package, I was like, oh, I was almost in tears. And I'm like, I am not taking the other one. No fucking way. I'm not doing this. No. Like I don't know how much more can come out of my body. I'm done. Oh yeah, I was miserable.
I'm still too young for a colonoscopy.
I don't know if there's an age thing for it or not. I went when I was really young. I think I was 23.
Here in the States, I think it's 40. I think it's like 40 or 50. You have to get a colonoscopy.
It's
40 for
honestly like,
mammogram.
uh,
Any age until you hit menopause for a female part check.
yeah. I don't like how they say the.
Sorry, my voice is going in and out.
Oh, no worries. How is it in the states? Have they only made it so you have a Pap smear every 3 years? Because they did that in Canada, and I don't like it. I think it still should be every year.
Like if a normal test, they
Yeah.
won't do it all the time, but when you're abnormal, they make you go through another one, and then if it's still abnormal, test.
Okay. So it's like, so for how like is it just once a year for you guys, or
Yeah, because I get mine like once a year.
we have to get it every 3 years now, and I don't agree with that. I think that they need to put it back to once a year because you just never know. I hate getting them done, but I'd rather be safe
Yet
than sorry.
it's the most uncomfortable thing there is.
Oh, it is. Yeah. It's 40
Other
unless.
than Cranston going through child labor.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I know. I hated that. I think, yeah, Melanie says the same thing. It needs to be once a year. I don't know why they changed it to every 3 years. And they know I have abnormal tests all the time because I keep getting those cysts on my ovaries and stuff. I have endometriosis, so I'm supposed to be every 6 months. And they're making me wait 3 years now, and I don't understand why.
Same here. I have cysts too, but I have PCOS.
Yeah, it is 40 much of history. All right. I'm going to start reading. Remember, just cut me off when you need to.
I will. Or I'm going to be eating Reese's on the mic.
Oh, yummy. After Kasabian left the stand, I called a series of witnesses whose detailed testimony either supported or corroborated her account. These included Tim Ireland, counselor at the girls' school down the hill from the Tate residence, who heard the cries and screams, Rudolph Weber, who described the hosing incident and dropped the one bombshell, the license plate number, John Swartz, who confirmed that was the number of his car, and who told how on 2 different nights in the first part of August 1969. Manson had borrowed the vehicle without asking permission. Winifred Chapman, who described her arrival at 10050 Seattle Drive on the morning of August 9th, 1969. Jim Asson, who called the police after Mrs. Chapman ran down Seattle screaming murder, death, bodies, blood. The first LAPD officers to arrive at the scene, DeRosa, Weisenhunt, and Burbridge, who described their grisly find. Bit by bit, piece by piece, from Chapman's arrival to the examination of the cut phone wires by the telephone company representative. The scene was recreated. The horror seemed to linger in the courtroom even after the witnesses had left the stand. What? Okay, these cats are. Oh, wow. I'm sitting in front of the window and they keep jumping up and down the window. I'm trying not to laugh, but holy. You guys are nuts. Since Leslie Van Houten was not charged with the 5 Tate murders, Hughes did not question any of these witnesses. He did, however, make an interesting motion. He asked that he and his client be permitted to absent themselves from the courtroom while those murders were discussed. Though the motion was denied, his attempt to separate his client from these events ran directly counter to Manson's collective defense, and I wondered how Charlie was reacting to it. Oh, thank you, Pink Phoenix. Hey, Tiff. Yeah, I just started. I'm only down. I just started. I'm only reading. Only read 2 paragraphs. Oh, thank you. When McGann took the stand, I questioned him at some length as to what he had found at the Tate residence. The relevancy of many of the details, the pieces of the gun grip, the dimensions and type of rope, absence of shell casings, and so on, would become apparent to the jury later. I was especially interested in establishing that there was no evidence of ransacking or robbery. I also got in, ahead of the defense, that drugs had been found and a pair of eyeglasses. Anticipating the next witness, Los Angeles County Coroner Thomas Noguchi, Kanarek asked for a conference in chambers. He'd had a change of heart, Kanarek said. Though he'd earlier shown the death photos to Mrs. Kasabian, I've thought about it, and I believe I was in error, Your Honor. Kanarek asked that the photos, particularly those which were in color, be excluded. Motion denied. The photos could be used for identification purposes. Older ruled, as to the admissibility as evidence, the motion would be heard at a later time. Me too, Melanie. Okay, good. If this is about Manson, I'm in. Everything I've ever seen on him has been super, super creepy. Yeah, it definitely. I'm reading the book. I'm almost done. I still got, well, I can't believe how much I've already read, but I'm way over half, so I'm almost done. Um, but I'm reading Helter Skelter, and it's the true story of the Manson murders, and it's by Vincent Bugliosi and Kurt Gentry. So he was Vincent was the prosecutor in the Manson case. He was for the defense. So that's kind of cool. Each time Kanarek tried such a tactic, I thought surely he can't better this, and each time I found he not only could, but did. Although I had interviewed Dr. Noguchi several times, I had a last conference with him in my office before we went to court. The coroner, who had conducted Sharon Tate's autopsy, as well as supervised those of the 4 Tate victims, had a habit of holding back little surprises. There are enough of these in trial without getting them from your own witnesses, so I asked him outright if there was anything he hadn't told me. Well, one thing he admitted. He hadn't mentioned in the autopsy reports, but after studying the abrasions on her left cheek, he had concluded Sharon Tate was hung. Trigger warning. Hey, Jenny. I was going to write that. This was not the cause of death, he said, and she had probably been suspended less than a minute, but he was convinced the abrasions were rope burns. I revised my interrogation sheets to get this in. Although almost all of Dr. Noguchi's testimony was important, several portions were especially so in terms of corroborating Linda Kasabian. Noguchi testified that many of the stab wounds penetrated bones. Linda had testified that Patricia Krenwinkel had complained that her hand hurt from her knife striking bones. Linda testified that the 2 knives she'd thrown out the car window had about the same blade length estimating, with her hands approximately length of between 5.5 and 6.5 inches. Dr. Noguchi testified that many of the wounds were a full 5 inches in depth. This was not only close to Linda's approximation, it also emphasized the extreme viciousness of the assaults. I remember when this happened. Read the book when it came out. Someone carved the words Helter Skelter in my grandparents' picket. But oh my god. Seriously? That is scary. Hey, there's 2 skulls, 1 swing. Linda estimated the blade width to be about 1 inch. Dr. Noguchi said the wounds were caused by a blade with a width of between 1 and 1.5 inches. Linda estimated the thickness as maybe 2 or 3 times that of an ordinary kitchen knife. Dr. Noguchi said the thickness varied from 1/8 to 1/2 inch, which corresponded to Linda's approximation. Sorry, I'm getting a bunch of messages. I confused one of my mods. I feel bad. Okay. Linda, who on Manson's instructions had several times honed knives similar to these while at Spawn Ranch, testified that the knives were sharpened on both sides. On one side, all the way back to the hilt, on the other, at least an inch back from the tip. Dr. Noguchi testified that about 2/3 of the wounds had been made by a blade or blades that had been sharpened on both sides for a distance of about 1.5 to 2 inches, one side then flattening out while the other remained keen. The other 1/3 of the wounds, Noguchi said, could have been made by a single-edged blade, but he didn't rule out the possibility that even these might have been made by a double-edged weapon. The unsharpened portion blunting the wound pattern so it appeared on the surface that a single-edged blade had been used. Hey, Lisa. No, there's no sharks. It's funny you say that because I was just thinking, okay, there is a guy in here in this book. He's a lawyer, and he's for he's Charles Manson's lawyer. His name's Kanarek, and he's an idiot. This guy, he's like KJ in a way because he doesn't listen, and he's constantly saying I object to nothing. The judge, which is oh my god, what the hell is his name? I forgot the judge's name now, but the judge has already sentenced him to 2 nights in jail. It was hilarious. Like he just it's a little funny.
Everyone gets a shark gifted by me.
That was funny. I still want to read that book. Okay. So Kanarek is a lawyer for the Manson's team, and he is definitely an idiot. Just so you know. As I'd later argue to the jury, Linda's description of those two knives, their thickness, width, length, even the fine point of the double-edged blade, was strong evidence that the two knives she was talking about were the same knives Dr. Noguchi had described. In his cross-examination of Noguchi, Canarak not only repeatedly referred to his victims passing away, he spoke of Abigail Folger running to her place of repose. It was beginning to sound like a guided tour of Forest Lawn. The idiocy of all this was not lost on Manson. He complained, "Your Honor, this lawyer is not doing what I am asking him to do, not even by a small margin. He is not my attorney. He is your attorney. I would like to dismiss this man and get another attorney." Holy frick. I can't remember. How many attorneys is he on now? Ugh.
I think it's 2 or 3 now.
Yeah. I think this is I think this is 3. I was not sure whether Manson was serious or not. Even if he wasn't, it was still a good tactical move. Charlie was in effect telling the jury, "Don't judge me by what this man says or does." Kenrick then questioned Noguchi about each of Mrs. Folger's 28 stab wounds. His purpose, as he admitted at the bench, was to establish the culpability of Linda Kasabian. Had she run for help, he suggested, perhaps Miss Folger might still be alive. There were several problems with this. At least the purpose of the questioning, Kenrick was in effect admitting Linda's presence at the scene. He was also stressing over and over and over again the involvement of Patricia Krenwinkel. There was nothing unethical about this. Kenrick's client was Manson. What was surprising was that Krenwinkel's own attorney, Paul Fitzgerald, didn't object more often. Aaron spotted the basic fallacy of all of this. Your Honor, had Dr. Christian Bernard had been present with an operating room already set up to operate on the victim, the wound to the aorta would still have been fatal. Later, while the jury was out, that's it, the judge his name is Older. Older asked Manson if he still desired to replace Kanarek. By this time, Charlie had changed his mind. During the discussion, Manson made an interesting observation as to his own feelings on the progress of the trial thus far. "We did pretty good at the first of it. Then we kind of lost control when the testimony started." Although Channel 7 newscaster Al Winman had actually been the first to spot the clothing, the TV crew found. We called cameraman King Baggett to the stand instead. Had we used Winman as a witness, he wouldn't have been able to cover any portion of the trial for his station. Before Baggett was sworn, the judge and attorneys conferred with him at the bench to make sure there was no mentions of the fact that Susan Atkins' confession had led them to the clothing. Thus, when Baggett testified, the jury got the impression that the TV crew just made a lucky guess. See, I don't agree with that. I don't like how they withhold things. I don't think that's right for the jurors. Because a lot of the time they withhold information, and the jurors had, if they had known at that, you know what I mean, at that point in time, they would have, I would imagine, changed their mind or wouldn't have said that, or wouldn't have said you're guilty in the first place, or you're not guilty, you know? I find that very sneaky. I don't think it's right. After Baggett identified the various items of apparel, we called Joe Granado of SID. Joe was to testify to the blood samples he had taken. Joe wasn't on the stand very long. He'd forgotten his notes and had to go get them. Fortunately, we had another witness ready, Helen Tabe, the deputy of Civil Brand who had obtained a sample of Susan Atkins' hair. Although I liked Joe as a person, as a witness he left much to be desired. He appeared very disorganized, couldn't pronounce many of the technical terms of his trade, often gave vague, inconclusive answers. Granado's failure to take samples from many of the spots, as well as his failure to run stub types on many of the samples he had taken, didn't exactly add to his impressiveness. I was particularly concerned about his having taken so few samples from the 2 pools of blood outside the front door. I took a random sampling, then I assumed the rest of it was the same. In his failure to test the blood on the bushes next to the porch, at that time, I guess, I assumed all the blood was of a similar origin. My concern here was all those samples he had taken matched in type stand that defense could maintain that the killers had gone to the residence unarmed. Ergo, they did not intend to commit murder, while a killing committed during the commission of a robbery is still first-degree murder. This could affect whether the defendants escaped the death penalty. More important, it negated our whole theory of the case, which was that Manson and Manson alone had a motive for these murders, and that motive was not robbery. A motive thousands of people could have, but to ignite Helter Skelter. Hey, Dragon Mama. You took a short nap. I hope you're feeling better. Shortly after I received the LaBianca reports, I ordered scaled blow-ups of the autopsy photos and asked Katsuma to measure the length and thickness of the wounds. Initially, I presumed there was no way to determine their depth, which would indicate the minimum length of the blade. However, in going over the coroner's original diagrams, I discovered that two of Rosemary LaBianca's wounds had been probed, one to the depths of 5 inches, the other 5.5 inches, while two of Lino LaBianca's wounds were 5.5 inches deep. Hey, Deb. Hey, Autistic. Oh, no worries. I just started. After many, many requests, Katsuma finally measured the photos. I then compared his measurements with those of the bread knife. They came out as follows: length of blade of bread knife, 4 inches, 4.5 inches. Depth of deepest measurable wound was 5.5 inches. Thickness of the blade of the bread knife, just under 1/16 of an inch. Thickness of the thickest wound was 3/16 of an inch. Width of the blade of the bread knife from 3/8 to 1 3/16 of an inch. Width of the widest wound is 1 1/4 inches. There was no way I concluded that the LaBianca's bread knife could have caused all those wounds. Length, width, thickness, and each of the dimensions of the bread knife were smaller than the wounds themselves. Therefore, the killers must have brought their own knives. Recalling, however, how Katsuma had confused a leather thong for electrical cord before the grand jury, I showed him the two sets of figures and, questioning him in much the same manner as I would in court, asked him, had he formed an opinion as to whether the bread knife found in Lino LaBianca's throat could have made all of the wounds? Yes, he had, Katsuma replied. What was his opinion? Yes, it could have. Suppressing a groan, I asked him to compare the figures again. This time he concluded there was no way the LaBianca knife could have made all those wounds. Wow, that seems they're like they don't know what they're doing. To to be doubly safe, the day I was to call him to the stand, I interviewed him again in my office. I would interview him too because it seems like he likes to swap his stories out. Again, he decided the knife could have made the wounds. Holy crap. Then again, he changed his mind. This person seems very incompetent. Doctor, I told him, I'm not trying to coach you. If it's your professional opinion that all the wounds were made by the bread knife, fine. But the figures that you yourself gave me indicate that the bread knife couldn't possibly have caused all the wounds. Now, which is it? Only don't tell me one thing now and something different on the stand. You've got to make up your mind. Even though he stuck to his last reply, I had more than a few apprehensive moments when it came time to question him in court. However, he testified, these dimensions of the bread knife are much smaller than many of the wounds which I previously described. Question. So it's your opinion that this bread knife, which was removed from Mr. LaBianca's throat, could not have caused many of the other wounds. Is that correct? His answer was yes, it is. What? He's changed his mind from yes to no, so now it is again. Holy, that's like 4 times. Rosemary LaBianca, Katsuma also testified and Rosemary LaBianca, Katsuma also testified, had been stabbed 41 times, 16 of which wounds, mostly in her back and buttocks, having been made after she had died. That's sick. Under questioning, Katsuma explained that after death, the heart stops pumping blood to the rest of the body. Therefore, post-mortem wounds are distinguishable by the distinguishable by their lighter color. This was very important testimony, since Leslie Van Houten told Diane Lake that she had stabbed someone who was already dead. Though Dr. Katsuma had come through on direct, I was worried about the cross-examination. In his initial report, the deputy coroner had the LaBiancas dying on the afternoon of Sunday, August 10th, a dozen hours after their deaths actually occurred. This not only contradicted Linda's account of the events of that second night, it gave the defense an excellent opportunity to go alibi. Conceivably, they called all numerous people who would testify. Truthfully, that while horseback riding at Spawn Ranch that Sunday afternoon, they had seen Manson, Watson, Carmichael, Van Houten, Atkins, Groban, and Kasabian. I not only hadn't asked Katsuma about the estimated time of death on direct, I hadn't even asked Noguchi this on the tape murders because Though I knew his testimony would have supported Linda's, I did not want the jury to wonder why I asked Noguchi and not Katsuma. Yeah, I hate peas. Definite overkill. Since Fitzgerald led off the cross examination, he always had first chance to explode any bombs in the defense arsenal, and this was certainly a big one. But he only said, "No questions, Your Honor." As to my amazement, did Shin, Kanarek, and Hughes? None of them did. I could only think of one possible explanation for this. Though they had received all these reports through discovery, none of the four had realized their importance. Yeah, incompetent. This whole book is incompetent by the defense. It's just, wow. Manson side, anyway. It's just ridiculous. Your dog is snoring so loud. My dog's a snorer too. Susan Atkins had a stomach ache. Though a fairly minor occurrence, in this instance, it led to Aaron Stovitz being yanked off the Tate LaBianca's case. 4 court days were lost when Susan Atkins complained of stomach pains, which the doctors who examined and tested her said did not exist. After sending the jury out, Judge Older called Susan to the stand, where she dramatically enumerated her ailments. Unimpressed and convinced she is now putting on an act, Older brought the jury back in and resumed the trial. As he was leaving the courtroom, a reporter asked Aaron what he thought of Susan's testimony. He replied, "It was a performance worthy of Sarah Bernhardt." The next morning, Aaron was ordered to appear in District Attorney Younger's office. After the Rolling Stone interview, Younger had told Aaron, no more interviews. Being somewhat easygoing by nature, Aaron had trouble complying with the edict. Once, when Younger was in San Francisco, he turned on the radio to hear Aaron commenting on some aspect of the day's courtroom proceedings. Though Aaron's comments were not in the violation of the gag order, on his return to LA, Younger warned Aaron, "One more interview and you're off the case." I accompanied Aaron to Younger's office. There was no way Aaron's comment could be called an interview, I argued. It was simply a passing remark. All of us made many such during the trial. Although for diplomatic reasons I didn't mention it, Younger, who was currently running for Attorney General of California on the Republicans' ticket, had himself called several press conferences during the trial, much to the displeasure of Judge Order. But Younger autocratically declared, "No, I've made up my mind, so you're off the case." I felt very badly about this. In my opinion, it was completely unfair. But in this case, there was no appeal. Since I had prepared the case and examined most of the witnesses, Aaron's removal did not affect the portion of the trial. We had agreed, however, that we would share the arguments to the jury, each of which would last several days. Having to handle them all myself added a tremendous burden to the load I was already carrying. In terms of time alone, it meant another 2 hours of preparation each night, when I was already putting in 4 or 5. Although two young WDAs, Donald Musick and Stephen Kay, had been assigned to replace Aaron, neither was familiar enough with the case to participate in the trial. Ironically, Steve Kay had once dated family member Sandra Good, the pair, both of whom had grown up in San Diego, having gone on a date arranged by their mothers. Sergeants Bowen and Dolan of the latent print section of SID came across as the experts they were. Latents, exemplars, lift cards, smudges, fragmentary ridges, non-conductive surfaces, points of identity. By the time the two officers had finished, the jury had been given a mini course in fingerprint identification. Brittany Barnes is my mod. She's on with me.
Hi.
Bowen described how he had lifted the latent prints found at the Tate residence, particularly focusing on the latent found on the outside of the front door and the latent on the inside of the left French door in Sharon Tate's bedroom. Using diagrams and greatly magnified photographs, I'd ordered prepared. Dolan indicated 18 points of identity between the print lifted from the front door of the Tate's residence and the right ring finger on the Watson exemplar, and 17 points of identity between the print lifted from the door of the master bedroom and the left little finger on the Krenwinkel exemplar. LAPD, he justified, requires only 10 points of identity to establish a positive identification. After Dolan had testified that there had never been a reported case of two separate persons having an identical fingerprint, or of any single person having two matching prints, I brought out through him that in the 70% of the crimes investigated by the LAPD's fingerprint men, not a single readable print belonging to anyone is obtained. Therefore, I could later argue to the jury the fact that none of Susan Atkins' prints were found inside the Tate residence did not mean she had not been there, since the absence of a clear, readable print is more common than uncommon. I could have broken this down further. A print matching that of a defendant is obtained at only 3% of the crime scenes visited by LAPD. Therefore, 97% of the time, they don't find a matching print. 97% is a powerful statistic when introduced in a case where none of the defendant's prints are found. My reason for not mentioning it in this case was obvious. LAPD have found not one, but two matching prints in 10050 Skelter Drive. How did I lose my spot? Damn. There we go. No print belonging to Manson or Kronwinkel or Van Houten have been found at the LaBianca residence. Anticipating that the defense would argue this proved the one of them had been there. I asked Dolan about the handle of the fork found protruding from Lino LaBianca's stomach. It was ivory, he said, a surface which readily lends itself to latent prints. I then asked him, "Did you secure anything at all from that fork? A smudge, a trace, a fragmentary fingerprint, anything at all?" Hey, Alberta and Stella. The answer was no, sir. There was not not so much as a slight smudge on it. In fact, it gave the impression to me, Kenrick objected, but Older let Dolan finish. It gave the impression to me that the handle of the particular fork had been wiped. Later, Dolan testified he had run a test. He'd grasped the fork with his fingers, then dusted it, and found fragmentary ridges. Although Mrs. Civic had opened and closed the refrigerator door about 6 p.m. on the night of the murders, Dolan had found not a smudge on the chrome handle or enamel surface of the door. However, in examining the door, he testified he did find wipe-type marks. Also important were the locations of the Carmichael and Watson Laytons at the Tate residence. The Carmichael's print had been found on the inside of the door, which led from Sharon Tate's bedroom outside the pool, not only proved that Patricia Carmichael had been inside the residence, together with the other evidence, indicated that she had probably chased Abigail Folger out this door. Blood spots on the inside of the house, on the door itself, and outside the door were determined to be BMN, Abigail Folger's type and subtype. Although Parent and Frykowski also had BMN, there was no evidence Parent ever entered the Tate residence, while there was evidence that Frykowski had run out the front door. Therefore, finding Carmichael's print here was completely consistent with Linda Kasabian's testimony that she saw Abigail running from the general direction, chased by the knife-wielding Carmichael. Even more conclusive, with the position of the Watson print, although Bowen testified that it was on the outside of the front door, he'd also said that it was 6 to 8 inches above the handle, near the edge, the tip of the finger pointing downward. As I illustrated to the jury, to leave the print where he did, Watson would have to be inside the Tate residence coming out. To make the print he had been outside, he would have to twist his arm in a very uncomfortable and extremely unnatural direction, using the right ring finger and trying it both ways on a door. The reader will see what I mean. The logical assumption was that Watson left his print while chasing Frykowski, Carmichael while in pursuit of Folger. Oh, don't thank me. Alberta's the one who did it. Seriously, I was telling Melanie that to drink Gatorade. I bought a 6-pack because I only had a little bit last night, like a half of it. And yeah, I also bought some like muscle relaxers that were because my neck it's not just my head, it's my neck. So I drank a whole bottle of Gatorade. I just got finished it, and I took some medicine. And honestly, I feel so much better. It's still there, the headache, but it's not a migraine anymore. I was like, oh, thank God. FBI Steve, stalks Nikki. Yeah, thank you so much, honestly. Yeah. It does help. Absolutely. Thank you for telling me that. That's what I would do, Melanie. Gatorade or Powerade, either or will work. It just makes it a mild headache most time. Yeah, because it was so bad today that oh my God. I didn't think I was gonna make it. I was like, as in like I'm gonna puke and everything else. It was really bad. Even more conclusive was the position of the Watson print. I think I just read that, didn't I? Yep. These were the strong points of the fingerprint testimony. There was one weak spot. Anticipating that the defense would try to make the most of those unidentified latent 25 of the 50 found at the Tate residence. 6 of the 25 found at the LaBianca's residence. I brought this out myself, but with several possible explanations. Since, as Dolan testified, no person has 2 matching fingerprints, it was possible the 25 unmatched Tate lanes could have been made by as few as 3 persons, while the 6 at the LaBianca's could even have been made by 1 person. Moreover, I established through Dolan that the latent fingerprints can have a long life. Under ideal conditions, those inside a residence may last for several months. I could afford to point this out. Since I already established that the two prints I was most concerned about, Carmichael's and Watson's, were on the surfaces Winifred Chapman had recently washed. Drink it as fast as Yeah, I chugged it, pretty much. I had a little bit left, and I just drank it that slowly, but I did. It did drink it. If it stays around longer than 2 days, get a neuro doctor ASAP. I've had it for like 5 days, maybe 6. Today was the worst day though. It was pounding so bad. It was really bad. It was too much for me. I was to the point of throwing up. It was that bad. The reason why I don't go to my doctor or say anything is because this happens all the time. What? Especially already having a stroke. If it lasts through tonight, go to the doctor tomorrow. Shit. I should be okay. I'll call. Yeah, Deb, take your meds. That's symptoms for my so with my history, I need to get it checked. I'm still waiting on this MRI, but that's going to take forever. You can cope with life now. That's good. Yeah, I'm doing. It's a lot better today. Oh, where did I? Okay, I expected Fitzgerald to hit hardest on that one weak spot. Instead, he attacked Dolan where he was least vulnerable. His expertise. Earlier, I brought out that Dolan had been in the latent print section of SID for 7 years, well assigned there, conducting over 8,000 fingerprint investigations and comparing in excess of 500,000 latent fingerprints. What are you eating? Get out of them. What do you got? What is it, Leland? What are you into?
I want to make soup, but what water do I use? Do I use the tap water?
Yeah, just let me do it here in a minute, okay?
It's like the soup with the pot.
Yeah, I'll do. Fitzgerald now asked Dolan, correct me if my mathematics are incorrect, Sergeant, but you had testified you went to the scene of 8,000 crimes. If you went to one a day and worked an average of 200 days a year, you would have been doing this for 40 years? Answer was, I would have to figure that out on a piece of paper. Question, assuming that you went to one crime scene per day, is that a fair statement that you went to one crime scene per day, Sergeant? Answer is no, sir. Question, how many crime scenes did you get to per day? Answer, anywhere from 2 or 3 years there, between 15 and 20. Question, a day? Answer is yes, sir. Hey, Miss Files. Fitzgerald had been knocked on his rump. Instead of getting up, dusting himself off, and moving on to safer territory, he set himself up for another pratfall by trying to attack the statistics. Had he done this homework, and since a fingerprint was the only physical evidence linking his client to the murders, there was no excuse whatsoever for his not doing so. He would have learned, as the jury now did, that 1940 SID had kept detailed records in court indicating exactly how many calls each officer made. The number of readable lanes he had obtained, and the number of times a suspect is thus identified. Kanarek, in his cross-examination of Dolan, tried to imply that in using benzidine to test for blood, Granado could have destroyed some of the prints at the LaBianca residence. Unfortunately for Kanarek, Dolan noted that he had arrived at the LaBianca's residence before Granado did. Though Kanarek did less well with Dolan than some of the other prosecution witnesses, this didn't mean I could relax my guard. At any moment, he was apt to do something like the following. Kanarek would say, Your Honor, in view of the fact the Los Angeles Police Department did not even choose to compare Linda Kasabian's fingerprints, Bugliosi. How do you know that, Mr. Kanarek? Kanarek, I have no further questions of this witness. The court, your comment is out of order. Bugliosi, would Your Honor admonish the jury to disregard that gratuitous remark of Mr. Kanarek? Older did so. Hughes' cross was brief and to the point. Had the witness compared a fingerprint exemplar of Leslie Van Houten with the latents found at the LaBianca residence? Yes. And none of these prints match the prints of Leslie Van Houten, is that correct? Yes, sir. No further questions. Hughes was learning fast. Apparently believing Canarek was really onto something, Fitzgerald reopened the cross-examination to ask, now, did you have occasion to compare the latent fingerprints obtained at the Tate residence and the latent fingerprints obtained at the LaBianca residence against an exemplar of one of Linda Kasabian's? Yes, sir, I did. What was the result of the comparison? Linda Kasabian's prints were not found at either scene. Fitzgerald, thank you. Yeah, I hear you. Two skulls. No, I get it. I should really ask. I was just so busy today. I was supposed to call him anyways because my ear is still bugging me. As much as possible, I tried to avoid embarrassing LAPD. It wasn't always possible. Earlier, for example, I'd had to bring the Sergeant DeRosa's pushing the gate control button, so the jury wouldn't wonder why there was no testimony regarding that particular print. In my direct examination of 11-year-old Stephen Weiss, I stuck to his finding the .22 caliber revolver on September 1st, 1969, and did not go into the subsequent events. However, Fitzgerald on cross brought out that although an officer had recovered the gun that same day, it was December 16, 1969, before LAPD homicide claimed the weapon, after Stephen's father called and told them they had already had the gun they were looking for. Fitzgerald also brought out how, after Stephen had taken care not to eradicate any prints, the officer who picked up the gun had done so literally, putting his hands all over it. 811? Oh, I didn't know about that. Thanks. I felt sorry for the next witness. The spectators had barely stopped laughing when Officer Watson of the Valley Services Division of LAPD took the stand to testify that he was the officer who recovered the gun. Officer Watson's testimony was essential, however, for he not only identified the gun, bringing out that it was missing its right hand grip and had a bent barrel and broken trigger guard, he also testified that it contained 2 live rounds and 7 empty shell casings. Sergeant Calkins then testified that on December 16, 1969, he had driven from Parker Center to the Valley Services Division to pick up the .22 caliber revolver. On cross, Fitzgerald brought out that between September 3rd and 5th, 1969, LAPD had sent out some 300 gun flyers containing a photograph and detailed description of the type of revolver that they were looking for, 2 different police agencies in the United States and Canada. Lest the jury began wondering why LAPD hadn't recovered the gun from the Valley Services Division immediately after the flyers went out, I was forced to ask Calkins on redirect, did you ever send a flyer to the Valley Services Division of Los Angeles Police Department in Van Nuys? Not to my knowledge, sir. To avoid further embarrassment to the LAPD, I didn't ask how close the Valley Services Division was to the Tate residence. Let's see how long this chapter is. Okay. Here's a new chapter. So this is September 7th to the 10th, 1970. Because of the State Bar Convention, court recessed for 3 days. I spent them working on my arguments and worrying about a telephone call I'd received. When court reconvened on the 10th, I made the following statement in chambers. One of our witnesses, Barbara Hoyt, has left her parents' home. I don't have all the details, but the mother said Barbara received a threat on her life, that if she testified at this trial, she would be killed and so will her family. I know 2 things. I know the threat did not come from the persecution, and it did not come from an aunt I have that lives in Minnesota. I think the most reasonable interference is it came from the defense. I'm bringing this out because I want the defense attorneys and their clients to know that we are going to prosecute whoever is responsible. Not only will we prosecute when our witnesses take the stand, I will do my best to bring out in front of the jury that they received threats on their lives. It is relevant. I suggest that defendants tell their friends this. When we returned to the courtroom, I had to leave such concerns behind and focus completely on the evidence we were presenting. It was crucial. Piece by piece, we were trying to link the gun to Spawn Ranch and Charles Manson. On Friday before our long adjournment, Sergeant Lee of the Firearms and Explosive Unit of SID positively identified the Sebring bullet as having been fired from the gun. Lee also stated that while the other bullets recovered from Tate scene lacked sufficient stria to make a positive identification, he found no markings or characteristics which would rule out the possibility that they were 2 fired from the same gun. The court talk is so boring. Wow. When I attempted to question Lee about still another link in this chain, the shell casings we had found at Spawn Ranch, Fitzgerald asked to approach the bench. It was defense contention, he said, that the shell casings were the product of an illegal search, therefore inadmissible. Anticipating that just such an objection might be raised, I told the court I obtained George Spawn's permission on tape. Sergeant Calkins should have it, I said. He was there with me. Only Calkins didn't have the tape, and now nearly a week later, he still hadn't found it. Finally, I called Calkins to stand to testify that we had obtained Spawn's permission. Cross-examined by Canarak, Calkins denied that the tape had disappeared or was lost. He just hadn't been able to locate it, he said. Older finally ruled the search valid, and Lee testified that he examined under the comparison microscope the shell casing he had test fired from the gun, and 15 of the shell casings he found at Spawn Ranch had identical firing pin compression marks. Street lands grooves firing pin marks after hours of highly technical testimony and more than 100 objections, most of them by Irving Canarak. We had placed the Tate murder gun at Spawn Ranch. Finally, something is a link. Although we had agreed to testify, Thomas Wellerman, aka TJ, was a reluctant witness. He'd never completely broken with the family. He'd drifted away and drift back. He seemed attracted by the easy lifestyle, repelled by the memory of the night he saw Manson shoot Bernard Crowe. Though I knew I couldn't get the shooting itself in during the guilt trial, I did question TJ as to the events immediately prior to it. He recalled how after receiving a phone call, Manson borrowed Swartz's 59 Ford, got a revolver, then with TJ accompanying him, drove to an apartment house on Franklin Avenue in Hollywood. After stopping the car, Manson handed TJ the revolver and told him to put it in his belt. Question. Then you both entered the apartment, is that correct? Yes. This was as far as I could go. I then showed TJ the .22 caliber high standard revolver and asked, have you ever seen this particular revolver before? I don't think so. It looks like it, but I don't know for sure, you know? TJ was hedging. I wasn't about to let him get away with it. Under further questioning, he admitted that his gun differed from the gun he had seen that night, and only one particular half the grip was missing. Question. Now, your first statement, I believe, was to the effect that you didn't think this was a revolver, and then you said it looked like it. Answer. I mean, I don't know for sure whether it was a revolver, but it looked like the revolver. There's a lot of those made. I wasn't worried about that little qualification, for Lomax of high standard had already testified that his model was relatively uncommon. Though qualified, TJ's testimony was dramatic, as he was the first witness to connect Manson and the gun. LAPD contacted me that night. Barbara Hoyt was in the hospital in Honolulu. Someone had given her what was believed to be a lethal dose of LSD. Holy shit. Fortunately, she had been rushed to the hospital in time. I did not learn many of the details until I talked to Barbara. After fleeing Barker Ranch, the pretty 17-year-old had returned home. Though she had cooperated with us, Barbara was extremely reluctant to testify, and then she was contacted by the Manson girls on the afternoon of September 5th and offered a free vacation in Hawaii in lieu of testifying. She'd accepted. Among the family members who'd helped persuade her were Squeaky, Gypsy, and Clem. Barbara spent that night at Spawn Ranch. The next day, Clem drove Barbara and Osich to one of the family hideouts, a house in North Hollywood, which was being rented by one of the newer family members, Denise Rice. Rice, who was 31, had a rap sheet that went back to 1958 and, in common with Clem, had been convicted of offenses ranging from narcotics possession to indecent exposure. He was currently on probation for assaulting a police officer. Though new to the family, he became one of its most hardcore members. Rice took the pair to the airport, bought them tickets, and then gave them $50 in cash plus some credit cards, including, not inappropriately, a TWA getaway card. Using assumed names, the two girls flew to Honolulu, where they booked the penthouse suite of the Hilton Hawaiian Village Hotel. Barbara saw little of the islands, however, since Osich, sure the police would be looking for Barbara, insisted they remain in the suite. While there, the pair, who had been close friends, had several long talks. Oswich told Barbara, we all have to go through Helter Skelter. If we don't do it in our heads, we'll have to do it physically. If you don't die in your head, you'll die when it comes down. Oswich also confided that Linda Kasabian was not long for this world. At the most, she had 6 months to live. Wow. At approximately the same time each morning, Osich made a long-distance call. The number was that of a payphone in North Hollywood, 3 blocks from the Rice residence. At least one of these calls was to Squeaky, the unofficial leader of the family of Manson's absence. Just after the call on the 9th, Oswich's manner suddenly changed. She became very serious and looked at me kind of strangely, Barbara said. Osich told Barbara that she had to go back to California, but that Barbara was to remain in Hawaii. She called and made a reservation on 1:15 flight to Los Angeles that afternoon. They caught a cab to the airport, arriving just before noon. Oswich said she wasn't hungry, but suggested that Barbara eat something. They went into a restaurant, and Barbara ordered a hamburger. When it arrived, Oswich took it and went outside, telling Barbara to pay the check. There was a line at the cash register, and for several minutes, Barbara lost sight of Oswich. When she came out, he gave her the hamburger, and Barbara ate it while they were waiting for Auschwitz's flight. Just before she was to board, Auschwitz remarked, "Imagine what it would be like if the hamburger had 10 tabs of acid in it." Barbara's response was, "Wow, she had never heard of anyone taking more than one tab of LSD," Barbara later said, and the thought was kind of frightening. After Auschwitz left, Barbara began feeling high. She tried to take a bus to the beach, but became so sick she had to get off. Panicked, she then started running and ran and ran and ran until she collapsed. A social worker, Brian Galloway, saw the young girl sprawled on a curb near the Salvation Army headquarters. Galloway was employed at the state hospital. His specialty was drug cases. Realizing that the girl was extremely ill, he rushed her to Queens Medical Center, where her condition was diagnosed as acute psychosis, drug-induced. The doctor who examined her was able to get her name and her Los Angeles address, but the rest made little sense. According to the hospital records, the patient said, "Call Mr. Bogloggy and tell him I won't be able to testify today in the Sharon Tate trial." After giving her emergency treatment, the hospital called the police and Barbara's parents. Her father flew to Hawaii and was able to bring her back to Los Angeles with him in the next day. On receiving the first fragmentary report, I told LAPD I wanted the persons involved charged with attempted murder. Since Barbara was a witness in the Tate case, the investigation was given to Tate detectives Calkins and McGann. Brittany, I can't remember. Did you send me anything to play?
Yeah, the interview with Susan Atkins in 1981.
That's what it was. Okay.
That was on Twitter.
Okay. I thought so. I just want to make sure. I'm going to stop reading for tonight. Well, I don't know if I should read one more chapter. It's another small one. What do you think?
Yeah, just one more.
Okay, we'll just do one more. All right. September 11th to the 17th, 1970. Though I knew Danny DiCarlo was afraid of Manson, the motorcyclist did a good job of disguising it while on the stand. When Charlie and the girls smiled at Donkey Dan, he grinned right back. I was concerned that DiCarlo might qualify his answers as he had in the Busole trial. After only a few minutes of testimony, however, my concern suddenly shifted from DiCarlo to Older. When I tried to establish the Manson-Watson relationship through DiCarlo, Older repeatedly sustained the defense objections. He also sustained objections to Manson's dinnertime conversations when he discussed his philosophy about blacks and whites. Back in chambers, Older made two remarks which early stunned me. He asked, "What is the relevance of whether or not Manson was the leader?" And he wanted an offer of proof as to the relevance of Helter Skelter. It was as if Older hadn't even been present during the trial thus far. Then I was more than a little disturbed at his stance came across in my reply. The offer of proof is that he used to say that he wanted to turn blacks against whites. Of course, this is only the motive for these murders. That's all it is. Other than that, it's not much else. I noted the prosecution as alleging Mr. Manson ordered these murders. It was his philosophy that led up to these murders. The motive for these murders was to ignite Helter Skelter. I think it's so obviously admissible that I am at a loss for words. The court says, "I would suggest this to you, Mr. Bugliosi. Over the noon hour, give some careful thought as to what you contend your proof is going to show. Now I realize that part of it may have to come in through the one witness and part through another. This is not unusual, but so far I can't see any connection between what Mr. Manson believed about blacks and whites in the abstract and any motive." I sweated through that noon hour. Unless I could establish Manson's domination of the other defendants, I wouldn't be able to convince the jury that they had killed on his instruction. And if Older foreclosed me from bringing in Manson's belief about the Black-White War from DiCarlo, when my heavyweight witnesses on this, Jacobson, Poston, and Watkins, were still to come, then we were in deep trouble. I returned to chambers armed with citations of authority as to both the admissibility and the relevance of the testimony. Yet even after long, impassioned plea, it appeared that I had not changed Older's mind. He still couldn't see, for instance, that the relevance of Watson's subservience to Manson or why I was trying to bring it out. Through DiCarlo, that Tex had an easygoing, rather weak personality. The relevance, of course, was that if I didn't establish both, the jury could very well infer that it was Watson, not Manson, who had ordered these murders. Bugliosi says, "I think the court can tell the relevancy by the fact the defense counsel are on their hind legs trying to keep it out. Canarac says, "I think the heart of what we have here is this, that Mr. Bugliosi has lost his cool because he is a monomania about convicting Mr. Manson." Bugliosi says, "He is charged with 7 murders, and I am going to be tenacious on this. I intend to go back with these witnesses and find out who Tex Watson was other than a name, Your Honor." The court says, I'm not going to stop you from trying, Mr. Bugliosi. On returning to court, I asked DiCarlo exactly the same question I had asked hours earlier. What's your impression of Tex Watson's general demeanor? Kenrick says, Your Honor, I will object to that as calling for a conclusion. Bugliosi says, People versus Zollner, Your Honor. I so anticipated Older saying sustained that I almost thought I was imagining it when he said overruled. You may answer. DiCarlo says he was happy-go-lucky. He was a nice guy. I liked Tex. He didn't have no temper or anything that I could see. He never said much. Glancing back, I saw both Don Music and Steve K staring in open-mouthed disbelief. Moments ago in chambers, Older had objected to my whole line of inquiry. He'd now completely reversed himself, going as fast as I could through the questioning before he could change his mind again. I bought out that whenever Charlie told Tex to do something, Tex did it. That Older had gone along with us on the domination issue didn't mean that he saw the relevance of Helter Skelter. My fingers were crossed when I asked, Do you recall Mr. Manson saying anything about blacks and whites, black people and white people? Stunned and perturbed, Kenrick objected. It is the same question that he was asking previously. The court overruled and said, You may answer. The answer was, he didn't like black people. DiCarlo testified that Manson wanted to see the blacks go to war with the police and the white establishment, both of whom he referred to as pigs, that Charlie told him that the pigs ought to have their throats cut and be hung up by their feet, and that he had heard Manson use the term helter-skelter many, many times. Though all of this, Kenrick objected repeatedly, often in the midst of DiCarlo's replies. Older told him, You are interrupting, Mr. Kenrick. I have warned you several times today. I warn you now for the last time. Kenrick says, I don't wish to make unnecessary objections, Your Honor. The court says, Don't you? Then cease from doing it. Within minutes, however, Kenrick was doing it again, and Older called him to the bench. Very angrily, Older told Kenrick, You seem to have some sort of physical infirmity or mental disability that causes you to interrupt and disrupt testimony. No matter how many times I warn you, you seem to do it repeatedly, again and again and again and again. You are trying to disrupt the testimony of this witness. It is perfectly clear. Now, I have gone as far as I am going to go with you, Mr. Kenrick. Kenrick complained, I am trying to consciously follow your orders. The court says, No. I'm afraid your explanation won't go. I have heard too much from you. I am very familiar with your tactics, and I am not going to put up with it any longer. Older found Kenrick in contempt of court, and as at the conclusion of the day's testimony, sentenced him to spend the weekend in the county jail again.
Oh God.
He's such an idiot. Wow. He's totally incompetent. Wow. Danny DiCarlo had never really understood Helter Skelter or cared to. As he admitted to me, his major interests while at Spawn were booze and broads. He couldn't see how his testimony about this black-white stuff really hurt Charlie, and he testified to it freely without qualification. But when it came to the physical evidence, the knives, the rope, and the gun, he saw the lake had pulled back. Not much, but just enough weakness in his identifications. In interviewing Danny, I learned a great many things which were not on the LAPD tapes. For example, he recalled that in early August 1969, Gypsy had purchased 10 or 12 buck knives, which had been passed out to various family members at Spawn. The knives, according to DiCarlo, were about 6 inches in length, 1 inch in width, and 1/8 inch in thickness, very close to the dimensions provided by Kasabi and Noguchi. In going through the sheriff's reports of August 16th raid, I found that a large number of weapons had been seized, including a submachine gun in a violin case, but not a single buck knife. The logical presumption, I later argued to the jury, was that after the murders of the rest of the buck knives had been ditched. I intended to call Sergeant Gleason from LASO to testify that no knives were found at the raid. First, however, I wanted Danny to testify to the purchase. He did, but he qualified it somewhat. When I asked him who brought the buck knives, he replied, I'm not sure. I think Gypsy did. I'm not sure. When it came to the Tate Sebring rope, DiCarlo testified it was similar to the rope Manson had purchased at the Jack Frost store. I persisted. Does it appear to be different in any fashion? No. DiCarlo had told me that Charlie preferred knives and swords to guns because the desert guns could be heard from a long distance. I asked DiCarlo if, among the guns at Spawn Ranch, Manson had a special favorite. Yeah, DiCarlo said, a high-standard 22 caliber buntline revolver. I showed him the gun and asked him, have you ever seen this revolver before? I saw one similar to it. Does it appear to differ in any fashion? The trigger guard is broken. Okay, other than that, I can't be sure. Why can't you be sure? I don't know. I don't know the serial number of it. I'm not sure that is it. DiCarlo had cleaned, cared for, and shot the gun. He had extensive background in weapons. The model was unusual, and he had made a drawing of it for the LAPD even before he was told that such a gun had been used in the Tate homicides. I'd already introduced the drawing for identification purposes over Canarack's objection that it was hearsay. If anyone should have been able to make a positive identification of that revolver, it was Danny DiCarlo. He didn't do so, I suspected, because he was afraid to. Though he was a shade weaker on the stand than in our interviews, I did succeed in getting a tremendous amount of evidence in through DiCarlo. Through court was interrupted for another 3-day recess. DiCarlo's direct took less than a day and a half of actual court time. I completed it on September 17th. That morning, Manson passed word through Fitzgerald and Shin that he wanted to see me in the lockup during the noon recess. Canarack was not present, though, and the other 2 attorneys were. I asked Manson what he wanted to talk to me about. I just wanted you to know that I didn't have anything to do with the attempted murder of Barbara Hoyt, Manson said. I don't know whether you ordered it or they did it on their own, I replied, but you know and I know that in either case, they did it because they thought it would please you. Manson wanted to rap, but I cut him off. I'm not really in the mood to talk to you, Charlie. Maybe if you have enough guts to take the stand, we'll talk then. He wants to rap. What the I asked McGann what was happening on the Honolulu hamburger case, as the papers had dubbed the Hoyt murder attempt. McGann said he and Calkins hadn't been able to come up with any evidence. I asked Phil Sartucci of the LaBianca team to take over. Phil efficiently turned in a detailed report with information on the airline tickets, credit card, long-distance calls, and so forth. It was December, however, before the case was even taken to the grand jury. In the interim, Oswald, Squeaky, Clem, Gypsy, and Rice remained at large. I'd often see them with the other family members at the corner of Temple and Broadway. On cross-examination, Fitzgerald asked DiCarlo, "Is it not true that Mr. Manson indicated to you that he actually loved the black people?" Dan replied, "Yeah, that was one time he said that." On redirect, I asked DiCarlo about the single conversation. Charlie had told him he loved the blacks, he said, for having the guts to fight against the police. Shin brought out that DiCarlo was aware of and more than passingly interested in the $25,000 reward, thereby establishing that he had had a reason to fabricate his testimony. Canarack pursued the subject in detail in his cross. He also dwelt at the length on DiCarlo's fondness for weapons. Earlier, DiCarlo had testified that he loved guns. Would he describe that love, Canarack asked? DiCarlo's reply brought down the house. "Well, I love them more than I do my old lady." It was easy to see where Canarack was heading. He was trying to establish that it was DiCarlo, not Manson, who was responsible for all the weapons being at Spawn Ranch. Canarack switched subjects. "Wasn't it true," he asked DiCarlo, "that during the entire time you were at the ranch, you were smashed?" Answer was, "I sure was." Leland, can you turn that down?
Yeah.
Thank you. "Were you so smashed on many occasions you had to be carried to bed?" "I made it a few times myself, yeah." Canarack hit hard on DiCarlo's drinking, also his vagueness as to the dates and times. How could he remember one particular Saturday night, for example, and not another night? "Well, this particular night," DiCarlo responded, "Gypsy got mad at me because I wouldn't take my boots off when I made love to her." Question. The only thing that is really pinpointed in your mind that you really remember is that you had a lot of sex, right? Answer is, well, even some of that I can't remember. Canarack had scored some points. He brought out that DiCarlo had testified on an earlier occasion during the Beausoleil trial that while at Spawn, he was smashed 99% of the time. The defense could now argue that DiCarlo was so inebriated that he couldn't perceive what was going on, much less recall specific conversations. Unfortunately for the defense, Fitzgerald unintentionally undermined this argument by asking DiCarlo to define the difference between drunk and smashed. His answer was, "My version of drunk is when I'm out to lunch on the ground. Smashed is just when I'm walking around loaded." Oh, here's another short one. I'll leave that too. December 18th, 1970. That afternoon, we had a surprise visitor in court. Charles texts Watson. After a 9-month delay that would necessitate trying him separately, Watson had finally returned to California on September 11th after U.S. Supreme Court Judges Hugo Black refused to grant him a further stay of extradition. Surgeons Sartucci and Gutierrez, who accompanied Watson on the flight, said he spoke little, mostly staring vacantly into space. He had lost about 30 pounds during this confinement, most of it during the last 2 months. When it became obvious his return to Los Angeles was imminent, Fitzgerald had asked that Watson be brought into court to see if DiCarlo would identify him. Realizing that Fitzgerald was making a very serious mistake, Canarack objected strenuously, but Older granted the removal order. The jury was still out when Watson entered the room. Though he smiled slightly at the 3 family defendants, who grinned and blew him kisses, he seemed oblivious to Manson's presence. By the time the jury came in, Watson was already seated and appeared just another spectator. "Fitzgerald, Mr. DiCarlo." Fitzgerald said, Mr. DiCarlo, you previously testified that a man by the name of Tex Watson was present at Spawn Ranch during the period of time you were there in 1969. Is that correct? Yes. Do you recognize Mr. Watson in the courtroom? Yeah, right over there. Danny pointed to where Tex was sitting. Obviously curious, the jury strained to see that the man they had heard so much about. Fitzgerald says, could I have this gentleman identify himself for the court, Your Honor? The court says, will you please stand and state your name? Watson stood after being motioned to his feet by one of the bailiffs, but he remained mute. Fitzgerald's mistake was obvious that the moment Watson got up, one look and the jury knew that Charles Tex Watson was not the type to order Charles Manson to do anything, much less instigate 7 murders on his own. He looked closer to 20 than 25. Short hair, blue blazer, gray slacks, tie. Instead of the wild-eyed monster depicted in the April 1969 mugshot, when Watson had been on drugs, he appeared to be a typical clean-cut college kid. Off stage, Watson could be made to be seen to be heavy. Having once seen him, the jury would never think that again. Since our first meeting in Independence, I had remained on speaking terms with Sandy and Squeaky. Occasionally, one or both would drop in at my office to chat. I usually made time for such visits, in part because I was still attempting to understand why they and 3 female defendants had joined the family, but also because I was remotely hopeful that if another murder was planned, one or the other might alert me. Neither, I was sure, would go to the police, and I wanted to leave at least one channel of communication open. It had more hopes for Sandy than Squeaky. The later was on a power trip, acting as Manson's unofficial spokesman, running the family in his absence, and it seemed unlikely she would do anything to jeopardize her status. Sandy, however, had gone against Manson's wishes on several occasions. I knew they were minor rebellions. When her baby was due, for example, she had gone to the hospital rather than have it delivered by the family. But they indicated that maybe behind the pat phrases, I'd touched something responsibly human. On her first visit to my office about 2 months earlier, we talked about the Manson credo. Sandy had maintained it was peace. I'd maintained it was murder, and had asked how she could stomach this. People are being murdered every day in Vietnam, she countered. Assuming for the sake of argument that the deaths in Vietnam are murders, I responded, how does this justify murdering 7 more people? As she tried to come up with an answer, I told her, Sandy, if you really believe in peace and love, I want you to prove it. The next murder is in the wind at Spawn Ranch. I want you to remember that other people like you live just as much as you do. And as another human being, I want you to do everything possible to prevent it from happening. Do you understand what I mean? She quietly replied, yes. I'd hoped she really meant that. The naive hope vanished when, in talking to Barbara Hoyt, I learned that Sandy had been one of the family members who had persuaded her to go to Hawaii. As I left court on that afternoon of the 18th, Sandy and 2 male followers approached me. Sandy, I'm very, very disappointed in you. I told her, you were at Spawn Ranch when Barbara's murder was planned. There's no question in my mind that you knew what was going to happen. Yet, though Barbara was your friend, you said nothing and did nothing. Why? She didn't reply, but stared at me as if in a trance. For a moment, I thought she hadn't heard me. Then she was stoned on drugs. But then, very slowly and deliberately, she reached down and began playing with the sheath knife that she wore at her wrist. That was her answer. Oh, wow. Disgusted, I turned and walked away. Looking back, however, I saw that Sandy and 2 boys were following me. I stopped, they stopped. When I started walking again, they followed, Sandy still fingering the knife. Gradually, they were closing the distance between us. Deciding it was better to face trouble than have my back to it, I turned and walked back to them. Listen, you goddamn bitch, and listen good, I told her. I don't know for sure whether you were or weren't involved in the actual attempted murder on Barbara, but if you were, I'm going to do everything in my power to see that you end up in jail. I then looked at the 2 males and told them if they followed me one more time, I was going to deck them on the spot. I then turned and walked off. This time, they didn't follow me. My reaction was, I felt exceptionally mild considering the circumstances. Kenrick felt otherwise. When the court reconvened on Monday, the 21st, he filed a motion asking that I be held in contempt for interfering with a witness. He also asked that I be arrested for violating Section 415 of the Penal Code, charging that I had made obscene remarks in the presence of a female. Yeah, she's got a knife. That was her response to the question. So, yeah, no. All right, I'm done reading for tonight. These chapters are getting smaller and smaller, though, which is fine. My throat's starting to hurt. Okay, I'm just going to check comments in a minute. I need to go to Twitter. Did you make it, Lee? Okay. Did you put enough water? Do you think you put enough water? Okay. Just making sure. course it's slow. Come on. There we go. Sorry, don't mean to take so long. You guys hear the helicopter? It's loud. All right, this video is about 10 minutes long. I'm just going to share here. Why the hell is this so slow? Hey, Nancy. Hey, Teresa. Manson died November 19, 2017. Yeah. You just couldn't chat. That's all right. Oh, this is... I kind of do. Our government has admitted to experimenting on people, but nothing past those who won't and will do anything for power. I have to agree with you there. What was sick? I missed something. My dumbass little brother has a tattoo of Manson. Oh my god. Oh, now they got laser removal. I think he should go do that. When one of my boys was in high school, one of their classmates went and got a chest tattoo all the way across their chest that was Helter Skelter. Wrote out just like Manson did in the Pig's Blood. Oh my god. She sued the tattoo shop, I would imagine. Manson was an MK Ultra subject, and that's why he did it. Wow. I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, I do believe in that stuff. You're welcome, Juice Claus. I'm still coughing up crud, taking NyQuil and eating hot. Oh, I'm sorry, Nancy. You know those one drops that Rico laugh? I like those.
Oh, that commercial.
Yeah, I do like it. I like them. Bruce Davis is still alive? Yeah. He's 79.
Bruce Davis is still alive. Bobby's still alive. Linda's definitely still alive, but in hiding.
Yeah. And Leslie, right?
Yeah, Leslie and Patricia are still alive. Patricia and Leslie, they are the oldest living female inmates in that jail they're in now.
Holy shit. Is Clifford Olsen still alive? I have no idea. All right, I'm going to share that. It's just a 10-minute video I was going to show you guys. It was an interview.
Yeah, this is basically Susan Atkins in 1981, 1982 doing her interview.
Yeah,
From the California. Point out there might be a trigger warning because I don't know how graphic she gets into it.
And I haven't seen it yet.
This is right around, it's right around the time when she started her born again Christian crap.
Oh, wow.
Of a California institution for women, Los Angeles. And you're right. It looks like a junior college campus. But we were allowed to photograph the 15-foot-high fences topped by rolls of barbed wire and guard towers. Between 900 and 1,000 women are serving time here, including Patricia Krenwinkel and Leslie Van Houten. The last years, Miss Atkins has been allowed to mingle with the other inmates. Now lives with other prisoners in one of the many cell blocks that prisoners call cottages. She was escorted to the office of Assistant Prison Superintendent Don Williamson, who was present off camera for the entire 1 hour visit we were granted. Susan Atkins is now 33 years old. Says she underwent a Christian conversion 7 years ago, and says she was lying when she said she killed Sharon Tate. The co-defendant Charles Tex Watson actually did all the killing. Watson himself has testified he alone murdered all 7 people.
What went wrong with you as a teenager?
I think culture.
You're echoing.
Culture of late 1960s, my desire to love.
Yeah, I didn't turn my mute button on, did I? Figures. My bad.
Hey. No,
Sorry.
you didn't.
I'm getting. I do it all the time now. Yeah, Deb, Patricia was approved for parole. It wasn't it because she was dying of cancer, so I just let her go.
No, it was Susan was dying of cancer in 2009. Unfortunately, she couldn't get passionate release, so she ended up dying in jail.
Ah.
I just got saved. It's like kids my age, 17, 18 years old at that time, with the drugs and the drug culture. It was an exciting thing, and I just got caught up in it. Got caught up and carried away. I think everybody that was into the drug scene in the late 60s was really looking for acceptance and love and wanted, they were tired of double standards, they were tired of hypocrisy as I was, and they wanted truth. Well, truth has been said it's relative to what you want, but there is a real truth. And I just got caught up in a big lie. It looked good, it sounded good, it felt good, but I kind of liken it to the story of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, where she ate an apple, and the apple good was that one drop of poison inside that apple, and it destroyed her. Well, with me, with the drug scene, it looked good, it tasted good, but it was poison to my mind, it was poison to my system, and it very, very much destroyed my early youth, my 20s, all through my 20s.
You say Tex Watson has now exonerated you and said that you did not kill anybody during those 2 nights. Were you lying this whole in prison? You said, gee, I stabbed Sharon Tate.
Yes.
I killed these people.
Yes.
And you were proud of it at the time.
Yes. I think you need to understand my need to be accepted in the prison system. I was very frightened. I was barely 20, 21. I was frightened. It was a means of defending myself, of appearing to be really tough.
This is horse shit. I don't like it because, like, not the video itself, but it's. She needs to take responsibility for her own actions and not blame everyone else or the world, or the times. No, that's what makes me mad. Disgusting.
Really strong because I did not kill anybody. I had, if you can understand this warped thinking, I had deep guilt feelings because I did not do what I was told to do with my peers at that point. And so I had guilt feelings. So I tried to make up for it and make myself to be really big, something really hard. I glorified crime.
All that Helter Skelter business.
Yeah, it was all crazy. And I glorified it in my role in it.
I didn't see the interview about a month ago or so, but Charlie Manson was interviewed on television. Did you happen to see that interview?
No.
I didn't either, to tell you the truth. What do you think about Charles Manson?
I don't like to talk about him. He's part of my life that I wish never had happened. And I can't talk
Does he
about
control you?
No, thank God. No, not at all. No.
People are worried, though, that if you got out, that it would be this all over again.
I've not heard from him or communicated with him in any way, shape, or form. I have made it absolutely clear I want nothing to do with him ever. I made this clear 7 years ago. I made it matter of public record. I pray for his soul. And it takes a lot of strength for me to even do that, to really be able to pray for his soul.
Since you found
Sorry, it's so blurry. This is a really old video. I see some questions here.
Yeah, it's from 1981, 1982.
Yeah. Who's the lady? This is Susan Atkins. Hey, Patricia. Oh Lord, I'm late. Did Nikki finish it? No, I'm good. I'm only gonna do that on Mondays at 7:00 every night. I want to do more though. That book was hilarious, but I have a feeling we're gonna get into the bad parts now. That the chapter's called Adam. I mean, at least it was enlightening going into it though.
Yeah. Shark wrestling.
Comparing that nightmare of killing to Snow White, what the fuck? Yeah, like this bitch is pissing me off. I'm not condemning anyone, but I would love to know why people join cults. What is missing in their lives to make them believe this shit wholehearted? I can tell you. They want to feel like they belong. They want to feel important. They want to feel loved. When you have shitty parents, you feel neglected. You want that. And if you're welcomed with all open arms and these people, men and women, they actually appreciate you, that's like a high that you never got before in your life. It's life changing, you know? So I can see it. I definitely can see why someone would join a cult just to be even acknowledged. A lot of it, I think, has to do with family, being bullied, even.
Like, some of these people that joined Manson, they were bullied in school unless you were Tex Watson and you were a powerhouse jock
Yeah,
/ ladies' man. But they all came from middle class families.
yeah. Did they really? These ones
And then
did?
they decided enough was enough, and they all went to California and joined the hippie movement in the late 60s.
Yeah. At this point in time, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
they all followed everyone else, right? It was just what was happening at the time, so I can understand that. But for people nowadays, and I just think people want to belong. Is Susan still alive? No way.
No, she died.
She's dead. Yeah. Sandra Good was a loyal supporter in 2006. Released in 1985, 78 years old. Thank you for putting these up, Deb. That's really sad. Yeah. Sexy Sadie. My 90-year-old mama laughed so hard, Nikki, at the shark thing today. I played the live we did. You have a new fan, Nikki, my 90-year-old mama. Oh, that's awesome. I hope she's doing well. Yeah, I hope mama's doing well. Died in 19, yeah.
Gypsy's still alive. I think she's in hiding too. And I
talk
think
to God and pray to him.
we all know that Barbara Hoyt died because, well, artsy.
Yeah, we know she's passed on, yeah. Paul Watkins. I don't even remember that one. He wasn't really a big part of anything, right, Paul? I can't remember. Those are the key
He
people.
was pretty much in and out.
Yeah, okay.
The
She
last
had her eye
time
surgery.
that
Did it come as... Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
I lost my train of thought. Remember Inside Out with the train?
Yeah.
That's me. It's
I'm
gonna take a while to get it back, and then I'll probably end up remembering it.
Yeah, you're just like me then. She had her eye surgery today. You made her okay. I'm assuming it went well, and I hope she has a quick recovery. That's got to be painful, I would imagine. Good. I'm glad I can make her laugh. That's awesome. Hopefully, there'll be more to come. December 3rd, 2017. That's when she passed. Okay.
Squeaky, she's still alive too.
Do you think he has
Being
forgiven you?
Squeaky.
Yes. Yes. There's a song I heard some time ago that one line says, "There is no sin that you could imagine that is greater than God's love to forgive." And that there's nothing that I could ever do in life that could be greater than God's love to forgive me. And that the blood of Jesus Christ shed at Calvary was as much for Susan Atkins as it was for Ronald Reagan. There's only one reason I want out of prison, and that's to serve my Lord Jesus Christ in whatever capacity he has called me to. And I believe he's called me to serve him as being Donald's wife.
Susan, when people see that, what you just said on television, whether it's in Texas or California, some of them are just going to stand up in their living room and say that girl is nuts.
Everyone is entitled to their own opinion. And I know that I stand before my God, and he knows my heart. And that's really all that matters to me. Two things: that God knows my heart and knows I didn't kill anybody, and Donald Lee Leisure Sr. knows my heart and knows that I didn't kill anybody. And that's all that matters to me.
Would you admit that you had some psychiatric problems over the past 10 years? And
Yes, I
look back
I
on
will
it with that?
agree 100% that I was as crazy as a Looney Tune when I came into this institution. And I know that I've had a deep healing in my mind and in my heart in the last 7 years.
You're coming up again for parole this September. How do you assess your chances this fall?
No, I have no illusions about the parole board's position in giving me a parole date. And I do not expect a parole date at this time. Not from the parole board of the state of California.
You've been in prison now for about 12 years.
Yes.
Do you think that you have paid your debt to society? Do you think you should get out? Do you think maybe do a couple more years? What's your feeling?
For the crime that I'm here for, and for the actual factual part that I played in my crime, I have done far more time than I think I should have done, because it's no secret my co-defendant has exonerated me from actually taking anybody's life. I'm here because I lied. I'm here because I was an accessory murder. As far as pain, there's no way. I guess, Chip, I have two feelings on it. One, for what I did in the case, I've done enough time. For my participation in helping 9 people lose their lives, there's no way. There's no amount of time, there's no amount of money that can bring back those people. There's no amount of time or money that can pay the families of the victims or the families of the people involved in the case for those deaths. And so you have to understand, I have a lot of, it's very painful for me to talk about it. I don't like to talk about it because nobody knows what I feel inside about it.
You remember it all happening though? I mean,
Vividly.
yeah.
And I will be glad when the day comes when I won't be able to remember. And I don't know if that day will ever come.
Maybe someone could help you start doing that.
Yes, I do. I certainly do.
On a message from him to you, so we could show that to you here at the prison.
Oh,
So stand by and we'll get that set up for you.
okay.
I love you very much, Susan, and I have 2 things as a total commitment in life: to get you out on executive clemency at the White House level so we can circumvent the state of California on it, because I think you've been a scapegoat. That's my honest opinion. The other thing is, I love you with all of my heart and soul. And God willing, we're both going to make it. I'm going to see you free on the bricks.
Is that the man you remember? The man you want to marry next month?
Absolutely.
I swear to God, I love her. I'm in love with her. I always have been for 15 years. She has been with me, and we want to get married, and I love her. And that's all I want to do. That's my primary commitment to her, having children with her and getting her out executive clemency.
Wah. He's in love with her. Uh-huh.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think they did get married,
Uh-oh.
but I don't think there was any children,
Man, don't play nothing.
unlike Tex.
That's good. She was a witness, yeah. Well, she was supposed to be, but then they They ended up switching her out for Linda Kasabian. Yeah, that's exactly how I felt. Ugh. You have to go, Deb? I'm going to make you a mod if you're still here. Actually, I think I need a little bit more.
At 21, Susan Atkins would become the
Shit.
most visible member of the ragtag bunch of killers, the Manson family.
Ragtag bunch of killers. Everybody finds Jesus in jail. That's what yeah, exactly. That would be a tough one, forgiving them for what they did. But if they truly did find God, who are we to say? That's the thing, though, Nancy. I don't believe it because too many people say that. I don't know them though, but I just can't. I don't know. There might be 1 in 100 that actually, turn to God. Other than that, I just don't know. Are you still here, Deb? I was gonna make her a mod. She's a good mod too. She's not my mod, and she's putting all these things in chat, and that's awesome. So I'm gonna make her one. Your felony stepson found Jesus. Yeah, and that's I mean, you believe him, right? I'm imagine. Like some people you can, some people it's just 5 times. Oh my god. Yes, yeah, I don't know about that one. There's a bad echo? Yeah, there is. Why is it doing that?
I don't think it's on my end. No, it's not because I have earphones in.
That's weird. Oh, is that better? No. Bad connection. Bad connection. That is weird. It's asking me to join my channel. Like become a member. My son found Buddha while incarcerated. All right, see how this is screwing up on me. Do you guys have any questions? Yeah, she is sweet. She's reading that book too. I don't know if it's going to be every what was yesterday? Wednesday. I don't know if it's going to be every Wednesday or not, but she's reading a book and it's about the Lizzie Borden and all the murders.
Yeah, there's like a nursery rhyme to that one.
Yeah, Lizzie Borden took an axe, gave her
Yes,
30, what is it, 40 whacks. Once she seen what she had done, she gave her father 41. I've read somewhere, it was on the news or something, that they don't know why that song exists because that's not actually the correct times they were hit with that axe.
Yeah.
Oh, you heard that too? Okay. But it was just something that the kids would sing. It was like a nursery rhyme for them. That's nuts. You're in pain? I'm sorry. Yeah, it's exactly how I'm feeling, autistic. You know, with the weather change? Like right now it's 13 degrees. Tomorrow it's going to be 28 degrees. How does that make fucking sense?
I know it's going to be hot here too, especially throughout the weekend.
Yeah, it's like, you got a question? What's your question? Buddhism. Oh, saved his life. Just found his channel. Oh, that's awesome. They find Jesus in jail to steal papers out of the Bible for cigarettes and stuff. I can't say on here. What's your question, Two Skulls? I'll try and answer it, or Brittany will answer it. She's like an expert. Yeah, I hear you. I always, that's not fun. He just said he found Jesus to please his dad, but he has been out of prison long enough to reproduce. Oh, God. When I got to when I go to the live, the camera thing pops up and asks join. So I put my two skulls thing on the line in there. I don't get it. Do you get it, Brittany? I don't know what they're saying. I don't know what she's saying.
Unless he's talking before you go into when you're in the studio, you can change your name and your.
Oh, did you click the link I had put up to skulls? Yeah, most of the Manson people, most of them are all dead now. You're from Alberta? Sweet. Oh, what are you doing clicking on that? Did you want to come up and talk? If you do, then yeah. I'll let you up.
Don't worry, I don't bite.
Yep. Yeah, I think so. 28 is hot as hell. Yeah, that's what she was talking about. Coming up on panel. It has your name in there. There's an option to change your name on that line and just delete what it says, like your real name, delete that and put in two skulls if you want.
I should have wrote it down. I didn't put the thing.
Yeah, I blamed B.I. Steve too. Yeah, it's hot in Celsius. Like, it's supposed to be up to 28. I get tickled in my throat. I'm gonna grab water. I'll be right back. I'm not good with the conversion either. Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah, it will stay. As soon as you put your name in as that, it will stay. I remember the Summer of Love. And these horrific murders, yeah. And these murders, horrific and shocking. It's supposed to be 31 to, oh my God. Yeah, that's hot. It's too hot for me. Like, it's weird because right now it's only 13 degrees Celsius. And tomorrow it's going to be up to 28. This doesn't make sense to me.
I'm thinking, did Jesus fart again? Did he blow some hot air out of his tushy?
That would be normal for Florida, yeah. Our summers, sometimes they're just too hot. They're above 30. It's disgusting. But not all the time, but it will. And then our winters are so damn cold. Do I have to type it just like it is in chat? Yep.
Yeah, you can. I didn't put down Brittany Barnes for mine. Everybody knows me as Brit.
Yeah. And I only have, mine is just Nikki, so you can put in two skulls, one swing if you don't want your real name.
You also have the option to close out your camera so nobody doesn't see your face.
Yeah.
Right now, I have my camera closed off because nobody doesn't want to see my face because I look horrible because I've been sick for most of the day.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Still trooper it because since it's the first of the month, everything has to be in. Rent, bills.
Yeah. Way too hot for you. Anything over 25 and I'm useless? Yeah. I mean, I get you can dress for winter, but when the winters are minus 25 or even lower, it's too much. I can't even, there's no point going outside. Nothing. Well, you were at 33, down at 27. Oh, wow. Your eyes are tired? I don't want to mess it up. All right. It's almost 7 here in Las Vegas, and it's still 110 degrees. Holy shit.
Well, that's normal for Las Vegas, too.
Is it really? Wow.
Yeah.
81 for autistic right now.
It's 63 here.
Yeah, I think 6 or 3 would be good. 13 is too cold too soon though for me. You're so excited. What is tomorrow, Friday? Normally I just make a video. But I'm starting to like these lives more, so I might just do that. Somebody just sent me a message saying the lovers broke up. So I'm going to see. I'm wondering if it's KJ and Uni. That actress was so beautiful and pregnant. I can't imagine the pain in the face. I know. She was gorgeous. Oh, I'm right. It is. Uni and KJ broke up. Wow.
For how long?
I know, right? I gotta show you guys this. Well, never mind. I don't want to. I'll just kind of tell you. I don't want to. I don't want to turn it into a her string. You know what I mean? Oh my God, she's trying to accuse him of twisting her pain and constantly turn her into a villain and exploitive and gross. For 2 years, you've obsessed over my every move. Are you kidding? Where the hell is that coming from? I'm so tired of this man weaponizing my son against me. Wow. She's flipping out on his ass. I want to know what the hell she said. this person goes, oh my God, whatever. This is just foreplay for them. Exactly. I like heat way more than snow. Yeah, me too. Hey, Deb. I made you a mod, Deb, because you're putting all that stuff in chat, and I really, really appreciate that. Your son wants to move to Canada? Tell your son donuts nuts here. The winters are too cold. You can't do shit here. And not only that, the summer, spring, and fall is fine. But the winter, no. It's a no-go. It's only a high of 20 now. Yeah.
Yeah, don't ever come to Pennsylvania. We have potholes out of the yin-yang.
Oh, wow. Oh, my God. 113 for Monday. Do you guys have any questions or anything about this book? Or anything Manson related? If so, we'll try to answer it. And if not, I'll just get off here. I'm getting hungry. I'm always hungry.
Yeah, I want to soak in the tub for a little bit before I go to bed tonight.
That's true, Deb. Yeah, it depends on where you live in Canada. That's true. Yeah, I wouldn't want to go to Texas. I'd love to visit, but I would never stay, especially if there's hurricanes. No, I'm good. That's terrifying. Especially avoid Winnipeg. We get really cold. Yeah. And avoid where I am. I'm in like the Ottawa, Kingston, Brockville, Prescott area. So it's always cold. Okay, now we have to see it. I'm going to put it in my video tomorrow or my live. I don't know. Have you even seen snow, Jenny? That's funny. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, Nancy. All right. Well, if you guys don't have questions, you can get off here now, Brittany, and go soak in your tub. I'm gonna end this.
Yeah. My husband was on baby duty.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming up. I love it when you come up. Hey, Benita.
Don't mention it.
Deb says she doesn't believe all of them should be forced to stay in prison. Yeah, I don't know what I believe, really. Hi, bye. I did read the book, some of it. I'm almost done. I keep saying that, but it's a huge book. In London, Ontario. I've never been there. Yeah, you guys have a great night. I'm gonna get off here and go get some. I'm kind of got munchies. I'm not really hungry. I just feel like munching on something. Thanks for joining me. I'll be back tomorrow, either a video or a live. I don't really have anything planned tomorrow. Wait, I gotta read emails. That's one thing I need to do. Respond to those. Oh, and I gotta make thumbnails and everything else. Okay, so yeah, I'm kind of busy. I'll figure it out. I'll do something tomorrow. You guys have a great night. Bye.